Welcome to the Deep. Today, we're jumping straight into some really compelling source material, exploring one of Hollywood's, let's say, most resilient and maybe unsettling.
Yeah, this whole idea that, elite talent can somehow secure complete, almost total impunity, regardless of alleged crimes or misconduct or, frankly, abusive behavior.
We're calling it the Hollywood consequence paradox. And the central thesis we've really pulled from this stack of research is, well, there's a clear, consistent, documented link.
A correlation, right, between huge professional success and this alleged bad behavior. It really suggests that in this specific industry, talent consistently, overwhelmingly, just trumps basic decency and accountability.
So our sources are digging into a critical failure point. If consequences just don't seem to exist for the most powerful, where does the failure actually lie? Is it all on the individual who commits the act?
Or is it fundamentally the system, the structure itself that enables them, allows them to commit these acts without ever really losing their status or their funding or even their reward?
Our mission today, then, is to unpack that systemic. We're looking at specific, really high-profile cases, alleged crimes, misconduct, abuse, and trying to trace the actual mechanisms Hollywood.
How do they grant these individuals these immediate or sometimes eventual redemption? We really want to understand how the machine actually operates.
And honestly, nothing illustrates this kind of institutional disconnect quite like the setup we found in the material regarding. You've got this company, right, built on moral lessons, G-rated virtues, fairy tale endings where bad guys...
Exactly. Disney, the global moral compass for family entertainment, supposedly.
Oh, yeah.
And they recently cast Jared Leto as the lead in a massive franchise reboot, Tron Ares.
Okay, and this is where the paradox stares you in the... Because this is Jared Leto, an actor notorious for his extreme, sometimes really bizarre method acting.
Yeah, the sources mention him allegedly sending co-stars things like rats, used condoms, even bullets.
Right. And critically, forcing crew members on the set of Morbius to push him around in a wheelchair, help him to the bathroom, because he refused to break character and just walk like a normal person.
And that's just the onset stuff. Beyond those theatrics, Leto carries this very long list of misconduct allegations spanning decades.
Including claims involving multiple women who were minors.
Yes. Specifically 16 and 17 years old at the time of the alleged incident. So when you put the sheer volume, the severity of these claims, right next to Disney's decision to hand him a lead role in a major franchise.
It's not just a disconnect.
No, it feels like an institutional endorsement. It basically says his talent, his star power is valuable enough to just ignore everything else.
Okay, let's really dig into that. The core of that institutional protection, because this isn't new. This is a pattern that, as you said, has been running for decades.
Right. When we talk about institutional protection, we absolutely have to look at cases where the industry establishment didn't just, look the other way.
They actively shielded them.
Actively shielded, celebrated, even rewarded individuals accused of or sometimes admitting to really serious crime. And you have to start with Roman Polanski.
The facts there are just stark. Polanski pleaded guilty to crimes involving a 13-year-old girl back in 1977.
And then to avoid his sentencing, he fled the U.S., spent the next several decades as a quote-unquote cinematic fugitive in Europe.
But still working.
Oh, yeah. Still directing films, winning awards, getting funding. His flight from justice did basically nothing to diminish his standing in the eyes of the Hollywood power structure.
Which brings us to the 2003 Academy Awards.
Polanski wins the Best Director Oscar for The Pianist. And the sources really hammer home this stunning reality. He could not physically enter the U.S. to accept his award.
Because he'd be arrested on the spot.
Immediately.
So this is where it gets, really revealing about the industry's priority. You'd think an award for an admitted criminal on the run would create some tension, right? Maybe some awkward silence.
You'd think, but the sources detail the absolute opposite. It was an extraordinary public spectacle.
What happened?
Polanski received this massive, enthusiastic standing ovation from a theater packed with Hollywood's absolute elite. Meryl Streep was even described as standing on her chair.
Standing on her chair, wow.
Yeah, so this wasn't just, let's respect the art. This felt like a loud, public, collective affirmation of the man who fled prosecution. It really validated prioritizing the powerful artist over, the rule of law.
And the protection became literal, physical, with the award itself.
That's right. Harrison Ford, one of the biggest stars on the planet, traveled and personally hand-delivered the Oscar statue to Polanski in France.
So that action just cemented it. The idea that the power structure would actually circumvent legal consequences to make sure their peer felt properly celebrated.
It confirmed for everyone watching, if you reach a certain level of talent and power in Hollywood, you might just stop being accountable to the same rules as everybody else. But the story, the defense, it really ramps up in 2009.
Okay, what happened then?
Polanski gets arrested in Switzerland. He was there attending the Zurich Film Festival to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award, ironically enough.
And that triggered the U.S. extradition process.
It did. And for a moment, it actually looked like he might finally be brought back to the U.S. to face sentencing for the crime he'd already admitted to decades later.
But the industry stepped in again.
Oh, did they ever?
Mm-hmm.
This triggered what our sources call the ultimate act of industry defense, the enablement petition. While Polanski was under arrest, over 100 globally famous directors, producers, A-list actors, over 100 signed this public petition demanding his immediate release.
And what was their argument? How did they frame it?
This is key. They didn't argue he was innocent. They couldn't. He pleaded guilty. They argued his arrest was a travesty of justice against a filmmaker.
Shifting the focus.
Exactly. Recasting him as the victim of some kind of legal vendetta, not an admitted fugitive running from the consequences of his actions involving a child.
Who signed it? Any big names?
The names are staggering. It's basically the core of modern critically acclaimed. You've got Wes Anderson, Penelope Cruz, Guillermo del Toro, Harrison Ford again, David Lynch, Natalie Portman, Martin Scorsese, Tilda Swinton, Emma Thompson, Steven Soderbergh.
Wow. So the people funding, greenlighting, starring in the movies we all watch.
Precisely. And they publicly stood together, unified, defending a criminal fleeing justice.
So how did this massive pressure, this institutional support actually lead to his release? Because he did walk free, right?
He did. And what's fascinating is how the legal defense kind of weaponized the very thing meant to bring him to justice, the extradition treaty. After about a year of what the press called luxury house arrest in Switzerland,
right,
the Swiss authorities refused extradition, and they cited procedural flaws.
Procedural flaws? That sounds like a technicality, like someone forgot to dot an I.
It sounds like that. But the sources suggest it was much more strategic. The defense successfully argued that the U.S. had actually violated the terms of the original 1977 plea agreement by apparently not honoring specific sentencing caps that the judge had agreed to at the time. So by framing the U.S. pursuit as basically a breach of contract, they argued the extradition request itself was invalid under the treaty.
And the Swiss government bought it.
They agreed. So this wasn't just, bad paperwork. It looks like a highly sophisticated legal strategy backed by the immense lobbying power of Hollywood that let Polanski walk free. The message couldn't have been clearer. Hollywood stands with the powerful filmmaker.
And that model, that perpetual support for a powerful director, despite serious allegations, it extends directly to the case of Woody Allen.
Absolutely. The allegations against Woody Allen, accused of sexually abusing his then 7-year-old stepdaughter, Dylan Farrow, back in '92, they illustrate a really similar pattern of industry-wide denial and, frankly, continued enablement.
And here, the legal nuance is really important to dissect carefully. The Connecticut prosecutor publicly stated there was probable cause to charge.
Right. And for anyone listening, probable cause means the prosecutor believed, based on the evidence they saw, that the crime likely occurred. That's a significant finding.
But, and this is the crucial distinction, he decided not to pursue the charge.
He stated the primary reason was to spare the 7-year-old victim the intense trauma of going through a public court case.
So charges dropped, but the finding of probable cause, the belief the crime likely happened, that remains. It's a profound legal detail that often gets, intentionally obscured by his defenders.
And then you add the context of his personal. 5 years after these accusations surface, Allen marries another stepdaughter, Sunit Previn, who was 20 at the time.
Yet, despite these long-standing, public, incredibly serious allegations, his career just kept going.
Never faltered. Continued to get Oscars, significant funding, even a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Golden Globes, ironically.
If we look at the period before the Me Too movement really forced a wider cultural conversation, the support for Allen was huge, wasn't it? Especially from A-list.
Overwhelmed, including many prominent women who actively dismissed the allegation or defended him.
Like Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, she was quoted defending him, saying something like, "I love Woody, I believe him, and I would work with him anytime." Blake Lively, after starring in one of his films, called the experience empowering to women.
Wow.
It's this profound sociological pattern. The industry effectively provided a moral shield for decades. Emma Stone, Hugh Jackman, Greta Gerwig, Timothy Chalamet, Selena Gomez, just a few of the huge stars who kept lining up to work with him.
Which essentially sends the message that the artistic opportunity outweighs the acclaim.
That's how it reads. And the sources really suggest that the moment of conscience for many of these actors only kicked in when it became a clear PR problem.
So not an internal moral reckoning, but external pressure.
Exactly. As the Me Too movement gained steam, studios got scared of bad press. Actors started distancing themselves to protect their own brands. It became reputation management.
Kate Winslet had a quote about this later.
Yes, she worked with him and Polanski, and later expressed this kind of dawning realization, articulating the systemic blind. She said something like, "It's like, what the F was I doing working with Woody Allen and Roman Polanski? It's unbelievable to me now how those men were held in such high regard for as long as they were."
That collective realization, delayed by decades, it really shows that for many, accountability isn't a principle, it's a PR calculation.
Okay, so let's shift now from the director, where the allegations often involve legal outcomes or finding, to major act. Here, the industry challenge becomes managing these significant, sustained public allegations of misconduct, often involving minors, largely through carefully managed public relations.
And we circle back to Jared Leto. His career stability just seems immune to this storm of allegations. Professional, and we already touched on them, method acting.
Right, the rats, the wheelchair on Morbius. Behavior the industry often just rationalizes away as artistic commitment or something.
But the personal allegations are the really disturbing core here. The source material details this long history, claims spanning 2 decades.
Culminating in that 2025 Air Mail expose. 9 women sharing alarmingly similar stories of alleged sexual misconduct. And crucially, several accusers claimed they were 16 or 17 at the time of the alleged incident.
What's wild is the lack of institutional response, even though this information wasn't exactly hidden. It wasn't just industry whispers.
No, not at all. It was out. Director James Gunn tweeted back in 2012 something like he was trading stories about what a dick Jared Leto is. Pretty blunt.
And there was more.
Even more significantly, Gunn reportedly made serious public claims during a now-deleted 2015 live stream, accusing Leto of sleeping with underage girl. These weren't vague rumors.
Okay, so now bring Disney back into this picture, because you have this tale of 2 reactions, don't you?
Exactly. It's profound hypocrisy. In 2018, James Gunn gets fired immediately from Guardians of the Galaxy. Why? Because some old offensive tweets resurfaced.
Right, during the height of Me Too's sensitivity. Disney feared the backlash, called his joke indefensible.
Lightning speed reaction when the PR damage came from old joke. But look at the calculation. Disney conveniently, completely ignored Gunn's much more recent, very specific public posts about Leto.
An actor facing serious, sustained allegations involving minors,
who they then cast in the Tron reboot shortly after ignoring Gunn's comments about it. The message seems pretty clear. If the asset, Leto, provides enough economic value, the studio will just endure or ignore the noise.
But if the noise, like Gunn's old tweets, is cheap to fix,
they cut bait immediately to save face. It's risk management, not morality.
That management of crisis, prioritizing the star over the victim, it leads us right to Ezra Miller.
Miller's story is just a textbook example. High-speed escalation of troubling incidents, followed by a very managed PR redemption arc.
It started publicly and shockingly in 2020 with that leaked video showing Miller physically choking a woman outside a bar.
Yeah, a documented, undeniable act of violence caught on camera.
And that was just the beginning. The next 2 years brought this constant stream of reports. Harassment, physical assault, serious grooming allegations, even burglary charges.
And we also had that documented protection order filed by a Massachusetts family. They claimed Miller was targeting their child, with specific accusations involving minors aged between 12 and 14.
So the problem for the studio, Warner Bros., was huge. Miller was the face of The Flash, a massive DC franchise film.
Hundreds of millions invested. The film was already shot. Replacing the actor wasn't really feasible.
So instead of replacement, they went for the classic Hollywood play, the public health pivot.
Exactly. In 2023, Miller released this carefully worded statement, citing complex mental health issues, claiming they were going through a time of intense crisis and had begun ongoing treatment.
Which immediately shifts the narrative.
Right. From potential criminality and definite misconduct to illness and recovery. It reframes the individual as someone needing institutional sympathy, not accountability.
And the comeback was almost immediate.
Instantaneous. Just months after that PR statement, Miller pops up on the red carpet at the Cannes Film Festival, then gets announced as the lead in a new Lynn Ramsey film. It was publicly framed as their big return to Hollywood.
Despite the history, including accusations involving very young minors.
It confirms the cycle. Powerful actor faces severe, documented accusations, including against kids. Studio protects its huge financial asset. Actor issues a statement citing crisis and treatment. Industry immediately provides the next high-profile job.
Because the economic engine just can't afford to lose a valuable star.
Even if it means looking past serious safety concerns raised by alleged victims.
And we see that same pattern, quiet disappearance, then a swift return with other actors, like Ansel Elgort.
Right. In 2020, Elgort faced accusations of assault and grooming from a then 17-year-old named Gabby. She provided specific details, alleged messages.
Like him warning her, "You can't tell another soul about us or I will get in trouble."
Yeah. His response was typical, admitting a brief and consensual relationship but denying her description of events. Standard denial playbook.
And then what?
The industry template kicked in. After Gabby's story, 3 other women came forward with similar accounts, alleging inappropriate communication when they were between 14 and 16.
So Al Gore, facing this intense public backlash, he just vanished for a bit.
Essentially disappeared for about half a decade. But that enforced exile, it wasn't permanent cancellation. It was more like market managed, letting the heat die down.
And the source material notes, he's back now.
Just recently, the cycle completed. He was announced as starring in a new film, Dinner with Audrey. The story cooled off, the project gets announced quietly, and the path back to normalization is opened up.
Few actors demonstrate that ability to survive really catastrophic public scandals and manage a comeback better than Mel Gibson, though.
Gibson's history is maybe the ultimate case study in how Hollywood grants forgiveness if the talent and the financial potential are just big enough.
It started with the 2006 DUI arrest, right? The anti-Semitic rant.
Yeah, which alone should have been career-ending for most. But then in 2010, it got exponentially worse. Leaked recordings of him spewing just horrific, misogynistic, racist abuse at his partner Oksana, plus her claims of physical and emotional violence.
The industry distanced itself then. His career really stalled.
It hit a severe stance. For many, that would be done. But the path back for him was engineered specifically through artistic prestige. The redemption arc was basically secured by directing the film Hacksaw Ridge in 2016. The sources detail how its critical success, 6 Oscar nominations, including Best Director for Gibson, allowed Hollywood to justify bringing him back.
Under the guise of celebrating his artistic vision.
Exactly. Focusing on the professional output, ignoring the personal conduct, it let everyone off the hook.
And it worked. After the Oscar nods, he was fully back in mainstream films, even family-friendly stuff like He's Home 2.
It's a clear trajectory. Scandal, temporary exile, critical claim used as a shield, and then full market reintegration. All facilitated because the industry wanted his talent back.
And we see similar, maybe less dramatic, but still telling, minimized responses to other. Ben Affleck, Dustin.
Yeah, Affleck's attempt to condemn Harvey Weinstein backfired immediately when people brought up his 2003 groping of an MTV presenter live on TV.
He apologized for the hypocrisy.
He did, and the event was largely just absorbed, forgotten. Then there was the 2014 groping accusation at a Golden Globes after-party, which Affleck apparently never even addressed publicly.
And the industry's silence suggests a certain tolerance level?
It seems to suggest a threshold for what they consider lower-level misconduct, especially when the star is commercially vital. It gets swept under the rug.
And Dustin Hoffman. Facing those allegations from 1985, a 17-year-old production assistant describing constant groping, inappropriate comments.
And the detail provided in the sources is really chilling. It shows the power imbalance. The PA recalled asking what he wanted for breakfast, and Hoffman allegedly replied, "I'll have a hard-boiled egg and a soft-boiled," gesturing crudely.
Hoffman eventually apologized, years later, claiming the behavior is not reflective of who I am.
Right, the standard non-apology apology. But despite the decades-long open secret about his behavior, he keeps getting major roles. He was just in Kung Fu Panda 4.
It just keeps reinforcing that central paradox. The industry seems consistently ready to hire you back if you deliver prestige or profit, no matter how severe the alleged misconduct.
So we need to shift focus a bit now, moving from legal issues or sexual misconduct to the third major pillar of this enablement, the normalization of psychological and sometimes even physical abuse on film sets.
Right, the behavior that gets systematically romanticized or reframed by the industry as just passion or method acting or, the necessary cost of working with a tortured genius.
Exactly. That narrative provides a powerful shield, especially for directors, the ones holding absolute power on set. And this isn't new. It has deep roots in cinema history. Think about Alfred Hitchcock.
Hitchcock, celebrated globally as a master filmmaker.
A master, yes. Yet the sources confirm this really disturbing pattern of psychological abuse, specifically his infamous terrorization of actress Tippi Hedren.
She spoke out about it, right?
She publicly detailed how he allegedly stalked her, harassed her constantly, and to completely destroyed her career when she rejected his unwanted advances.
So how does the industry reconcile those two things, the master filmmaker and alleged?
They actively use the genius defense. They separate the art from the artist to such an extreme degree that the abusive behavior isn't seen as a moral failing. It becomes like an eccentric quirk of a bizarre devotion to the craft.
So his status as one of the greatest directors ever remains untouched because his art is just deemed too valuable.
Pretty much. The man himself is beyond criticism. And the same mechanism shielded Stanley Kubrick. His obsession with the perfect shot often became psychological warfare.
The famous example being The Shining.
Quintessential example. Kubrick was known for pushing actors right to their breaking. He forced Shelley Duvall through 127 takes of the same scene.
127 takes.
Yeah, and the sources detailed the physical toll. She reported physical shaking, her hair falling out, just complete mental exhaustion from the sustained stress of his.
And how is that discussed now? By critic historians.
This is critical. Instead of being seen as cruel or abusive management, it's often often framed as proof of Kubrick's uncompromising artistic vision. It justifies the human cost as a necessary sacrifice for cinematic greatness.
So the victim's suffering actually becomes evidence of the genius's commitment.
Precisely. It twists the narrative completely. And that cycle continues today with contemporary directors like David O. Russell. He makes critically acclaimed, Oscar-friendly films.
But he's notoriously known for creating total chaos and abuse on his set.
There's documented evidence, too. That infamous leaked video from the set of I Heart Huckabees, you see him just screaming obscenities at Lily Tomlin in front of the entire crew, calling her terrible names.
And that video tells a bigger story about power dynamics, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The crucial part isn't just Russell's public meltdown. It's the dead silence of the crew members standing right there. They look terrified.
Because if they step in,
if a sound guy or a grip tries to defend the actress, they risk getting labeled difficult, getting blacklisted. They could lose their livelihood. In that environment, everyone is replaceable except the powerful, celebrated director.
This chaos even escalated to a physical fight with George Clooney.
Yes, during the filming of Three Kings, Russell was reportedly screaming at crew, throwing things. Clooney stepped in, and it actually became physical.
And Clooney spoke about it later.
He did. He called Russell a miserable F who created a hostile work environment every single day. It confirms it wasn't a one-off bad day, it was a pattern.
And this pattern continued. Amy Adams on American Hustle.
She admitted she was constantly crying on set because of Russell's treatment. She seriously considered quitting. Christian Bale reportedly had to step in repeatedly to defend her from the director's tirades.
But Russell's issues aren't just confined to on-set abuse, right? There was another serious allegation.
Yes. In 2011, he was accused of groping his 19-year-old transgender niece at a gym in Florida.
And this case is really illustrative of how power enables, self-exoneration. Because Russell admitted to the touching, didn't he?
He did. The police report details him asking really invasive questions about her body and then touching her underneath her. He admitted the contact.
But his response was
immediate victim blaming. He claimed she gave him permission and then went further, claiming she'd become very provocative and seductive since her transition. Just classic blame.
The case was closed, though.
It was closed. Prosecutors cited difficulty proving criminal intent, largely because Russell claimed. But his admission to the touching and the explicit victim blaming, that remains documented.
And yet, despite this admission, despite the documented onset, he continues to draw the biggest names.
Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, Robert De Niro, even Taylor Swift lined up for his recent film, Amsterdam. The mechanism is just crystal clear. His box office potential and Oscar nominations act like an invisible shield.
Ensuring his behavior, no matter how abusive or ethically questionable, is always secondary to his ability to deliver that prestigious project.
Exactly. And this pattern also extends to actors who abuse those with the least power on set, the crew, the quote-unquote notoriously difficult actor.
Shia LaBeouf comes to mind.
Prime example. Known for having a volatile temper, fighting co-star, but his abuse is often directed right at the crew, especially through his dedication to method acting.
Like the infamous refusing to shower.
Yeah, refusing to shower for months for certain roles. Think about the power dynamic there.
It's devastating for the crew. Boom operators, camera assistants, lighting techs working 12, 14-hour days, forced to be in close proximity to an actor who smells awful.
And they can't say a word. They can't complain. The sources describe the crew having to just sit there and take it, sacrificing their basic comfort, their dignity, sometimes maybe even their health.
So an Oscar nominee can stay in character.
It shows this profound imbalance where the well-being of essential workers is just instantly sacrificed for the perceived artistic needs of the star.
And the list of actors known for being difficult or abusive, whose behavior is tolerated, it's long.
It really is. Charlie Sheen, Lea Michele, Jennifer Lopez, Edward Norton, Julia Roberts, Alec Baldwin, Bruce Willis, Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Just to name a few who people have been brave enough to publicly call out over the years. It's systemic tolerance. So if the first three parts of our dive detailed this vast lack of consequences for the powerful perpetrators, this final section really has to examine the flip side.
The price paid by the victims.
Exact. The severe, often career-destroying price paid by the victims, or even just by those who dared to speak out against the abuse.
And you have to start with the system built by Harvey Weinstein. He wasn't just powerful, he was arguably the single most dominant figure in independent decades.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dictating careers, winning Oscars, incredibly feared. He even had the nickname Harvey the Creep, but the secret of his alleged widespread predation was kept because he held the absolute power to ruin people.
He weaponized that power through what the sources call career vandalism.
Yes. Actresses who allegedly rejected his advances, people like Mira Sorvino, Ashley Judd, they suddenly found their careers just vanished. The phone stopped ringing. They weren't getting offered roles, weren't invited to key events.
And this wasn't just paranoia, it was confirmed later.
It was confirmed directly by director Peter Jackson. He revealed that when he considered casting Sorvino and Judd for Lord of the Rings, Weinstein personally stepped in.
And told Jackson.
Told him they were a nightmare to work with, actively lying to sabotage their careers. It was concrete proof of blacklist. Weinstein destroyed careers simply because women wouldn't submit to him.
So it wasn't just about the powerful escaping consequences themselves.
No, they actively ensured that those who resisted, those who spoke up, suffered the most severe professional consequence possible. Total irrelevant.
And maybe the most powerful and sadly representative story of this victim's prey is Brendan Fraser.
Oh, absolutely. Fraser was a huge star in the late 90s, early 2000s. The Mummy, George the Jungle, bankable, beloved actor.
And then he just disappeared from the box office. It was noticeable, but nobody really explained why for years.
The explanation finally came in 2018. Fraser revealed he was sexually assaulted by Philip Burke, who was then the head of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, the group that runs the Golden Globes, back in 2003.
And the consequences for Fraser after speaking out about this power figure.
Immediate and devastating professional blacklist. He stated explicitly that after the incident, he stopped being invited to HFPA events. Major opportunities just dried up completely, and his mental health suffered.
That's the real consequence in Hollywood. If you speak truth to power, your career can end, regardless of your previous success or talent.
Which makes the emotional impact of his recent comeback so significant. The industry didn't suddenly reward his courage after all those years.
The audience did.
The audience did. His winning the Best Actor Oscar in 2023 felt like this huge symbolic reclamation of a career that was stolen from him for decades, forced into exile simply for speaking out against the system that protected his alleged abuser.
It was a moment of cultural validation, definitely.
But it took 2 decades. It required a massive cultural shift with Me Too, and frankly, the system failing to completely destroy him in the interim. The redemption came from outside the machine that enabled his suffering in the first #tag.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, the Hollywood consequence paradox really reveals this crystal clear cycle of enablement, doesn't it?
It does. A powerful figure gets accused of serious misconduct, sometimes even admits to a crime. The industry looks the other way or actively defends, often citing the genius defense or the financial value of the asset.
And if public scrutiny gets too intense,
the person might withdraw briefly. Often there's a statement citing mental health issues or needing treatment, and then almost inevitably, a major studio or producer provides that professional redemption, a splashy comeback role.
What seems to have shifted, though, in the modern era, is the absolute necessity of PR strategy.
That's the main. Studios now rush to release these often half-hearted statements, or they fire someone like James Gunn quickly. But it feels less about genuine principle.
And more about being scared of looking.
Exactly. Scared of bad PR, scared of upsetting the audience and investors. It's prioritizing damage control over any real systemic accountability. The core system, the financial calculations driving these decisions, they seem incredibly resistant to fundamental change.
Which puts the ultimate power maybe back on us, the audience. We've been trained for decades to separate the art from the artist.
That's right. But we need to acknowledge that very separation is often what keeps the whole enabling system funded and run. When we separate the artist still gets paid. The studio still profits, and the alleged victims are often still left behind, their careers potentially ruined.
And while social media has certainly made these secrets harder to keep buried,
the continued operation of the paradox is undeniable. I mean, the source material really ends where we began this conversation, observing that Jared Leto recently starred as the lead in Disney's big Tron release.
Which is a pretty clear sign that, despite all the noise, despite the allegations, the institutional resistance to genuine change remains incredibly strong.
Paramount, even.
So, if Hollywood refuses to hold these powerful figures truly accountable, we have to ask ourselves, right, what is the actual cost? To the workers on set, to the broader culture, and most importantly, to the victim. When we continue to celebrate and financially reward people whose talent will always demonstrably matter more to the industry than basic human.
And maybe that's the final thought. The power to decide who we celebrate, whose work we consume, and who we perhaps allow to just fade into irrelevance. That power ultimately rests with you, the audience. If the industry relies on us compartmentalizing, separating the art to keep the profits flowing,
then maybe supporting the art is supporting the entire enabling system that created this paradox in the first place.
That's the decision, the question we leave with.
Thank you for joining us for the deep dive.